July 1st, 1916, 7:28 in the morning. Somewhere in northern France, 100,000 British soldiers stood at the edge of their trenches. At 7:30, whistles blew, and they climbed over the top. Before noon, 30,000 of them were already dead. By sunset, 57,470 British casualties in a single day. That was one battle, one day, one of 5. Today we're counting down the 5 deadliest military battles in human history, spanning 2,500 years of warfare. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just how many people died, but why these 5 moments broke every rule of war that came before them. Before we start, a quick note on how we're ranking these. Deadliest doesn't just mean body count. It means the battle that broke something, that changed how war was fought forever. These 5 battles did both. Number 5 on our list took place in a narrow mountain pass in ancient Greece. 300 men decided to hold a pass against an army of over 300,000, and somehow they held for 3 days. This is battle number 5, Thermopylae, 480 BC. In 480 BC, the Persian Empire stretched from modern-day Egypt to India. It was the largest empire the world had ever seen. Their king, Xerxes, had spent 4 years building an army so large that ancient historians said it literally drank rivers dry as it marched. His target? Greece. And specifically, he wanted Athens burned to the ground. The Greek city-states had a problem. To reach Athens by land, the Persian army had to travel down Greece's eastern coast, and there was exactly one route, a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. Control that pass, and you stop the entire Persian army. Let it fall, and Greece is over. King Leonidas of Sparta volunteered to hold the pass. He brought 300 of his best warriors, but the Persians brought between 100,000 and 300,000 soldiers. The exact number is still debated. What isn't debated, the odds were impossible. Leonidas used the geography itself as his weapon. The pass was so narrow that Persian numbers meant almost nothing. For 2 days, Leonidas used a rotating system, fresh Spartan units cycling in and out of the front line to replace exhausted warriors. The Spartans fought in a phalanx, a wall of shields and spears nearly impossible to break head-on. The Persians threw wave after wave. They even sent in their immortals, the elite personal guard of Xerxes, the finest warriors in the empire. Even the immortals fell. Day 1 ended with the Persians unable to break through. For 2 full days, 300 men held the most powerful army on earth at a narrow pass in Greece. Then on the 3rd day, a Greek farmer named Ephialtes betrayed them. He showed the Persians a hidden mountain path that looped around the back of the pass. Leonidas learned of the betrayal at dawn. He made a decision that would be talked about for the next 2,500 years. He sent the allied Greek forces home. He kept his 300 Spartans. When Persia demanded they lay down their weapons, Leonidas reportedly answered, "Come and take them." The final battle was a massacre. Surrounded on 2 sides, the Spartans formed a final tight circle and fought until the last man fell. They took an estimated 20,000 Persian soldiers with them. The delay mattered. It bought Greece the time needed to prepare its navy. A few weeks later, at Salamis, the Greek fleet lured the Persian navy into a narrow strait, the same tactic, and destroyed it. Xerxes retreated. Greece survived. Western civilization continued. Final casualties, approximately 20,000 Persian dead, 300 Spartan dead, 700 allied Greek dead. What Thermopylae proved, geography is a force multiplier. The right terrain can equalize any numerical disadvantage. The 300 Spartans didn't win, but they changed the outcome of a war by choosing where and how they lost. Number 4 takes us forward nearly 2,000 years, to a muddy field in northern France, October 1415. October 25th, 1415. The English army was deep in French territory and in serious trouble. King Henry V had marched his 6,000-man army hundreds of miles across France for weeks. His men were starving and sick. Blocking their path home was a French army of 36,000, fresh, armored, and confident. The French knights were so confident they argued about who would get to take the English king prisoner. Henry had one card to play: 5,000 Welsh and English longbowmen. Henry positioned his archers on both flanks in a V shape, funneling the French cavalry into a narrow, muddy killing corridor between them. Henry also ordered his men to drive sharpened stakes into the ground in front of the archers, a wall of spikes to break any cavalry charge. The French advanced, heavy war horses and knights in full plate armor churning through ankle-deep mud. Then Henry gave the order to fire. 5,000 archers, 12 arrows per minute each, 60,000 arrows in the air simultaneously. The plate armor that was supposed to protect the French knights became their death trap. In the deep mud, a fallen knight couldn't stand back up. The French advance collapsed. Thousands of knights who couldn't move were cut down where they stood. The battle lasted less than 3 hours. French losses, 7,000 to 10,000 dead. English losses, fewer than 500. Agincourt proved that technology, correctly deployed, can completely neutralize superior numbers. The longbow at Agincourt was the medieval world's version of a machine gun. Range, rate of fire, penetration, it made traditional cavalry charges obsolete. And the French, despite being warned about English archery, rode directly into it anyway. Number 3 takes us back to ancient North Africa, 216 BC, a river plain in southern Italy. In 216 BC, the Roman Republic had been at war with Carthage for years. It was a war for control of the Mediterranean, the richest trade network on Earth. Then a Carthaginian general named Hannibal Barca did something that shocked the entire ancient world. He marched an army across the Alps, with war elephants, and invaded Italy from the north. He had already defeated 2 Roman armies in Italy before Cannae. Rome was furious and embarrassed. So in August 216 BC, Rome sent its largest army ever assembled, 86,000 soldiers, with orders to end Hannibal once and for all. Hannibal looked at the Roman formation and saw exactly what he needed. The Romans formed their standard battle line, massive, deep, concentrated in the center. The same reliable formation that had defeated almost every enemy for 200 years. Hannibal's formation was different. His weakest infantry, Gauls, at the center, bulging forward. His best veterans, African heavy infantry, on the wings. The plan: let the Romans push into the Gaul center. Let the center bend, but not break. Draw the Romans deeper. The Romans pushed harder. They went deeper, packing more tightly, until they were so crowded they couldn't lift their weapons properly. Then Hannibal's cavalry swept around both flanks simultaneously. The trap closed. 70,000 Roman soldiers completely surrounded. No way out. What followed took approximately 3 hours. Historians estimate 1 Roman soldier was killed every 0.3 seconds for the duration of the battle. Survivors who escaped ran back to Rome. When they arrived, the city went into mass mourning. Cannae established the doctrine of double envelopment, attacking both flanks simultaneously to encircle an enemy. Every war college in the world still teaches it. Napoleon studied Cannae. Rommel studied it. Patton carried a personal copy of Hannibal's biography. 216 BC, a battle so perfectly designed that 2,200 years later, it is still the template for how to destroy an army. Number 2. We leave the ancient world now and enter one that looks, on the surface, far more familiar. World War I, 1916. By 1916, World War I had been grinding for 2 years. The Western Front, a 400-mile scar of trenches from Belgium to Switzerland. Neither side had moved more than a few miles in 2 years of fighting. The Allied High Command planned a massive offensive on the Somme River. First, a week-long artillery bombardment to destroy the German defenses. For 7 days, they fired 1.5 million shells at the German lines. The generals believed no one could survive that bombardment. They were wrong. At 7:28 a.m. on July 1st, the guns stopped. 100,000 British soldiers began to climb out. They had been told to walk, because all the Germans would be dead. But the Germans climbed out of their bunkers and opened fire. The British soldiers walked into machine gun fire in straight lines. The machine gun had a range of 2,000 yards. The British had 200 yards to cross. Some units lost 80% of their men in the first 30 minutes. 57,470 British casualties on the first day alone. It remains the single bloodiest day in British military history. The battle continued for 141 more days. Total casualties both sides, over 1.1 million. The front line moved 7 miles. The Somme wasn't a failure of bravery. It was a failure of leadership catching up to new technology. Machine guns and barbed wire had made charging infantry obsolete overnight. The generals hadn't understood that yet. Over 1 million casualties. The Somme is number 2 on our list. But there is one battle that makes even this look contained. Number 1. Stalingrad, 1942 to 1943. By summer 1942, Nazi Germany controlled almost all of Europe. The Soviet Union was being pushed back on every front. Hitler chose Stalingrad, a city on the Volga River, strategically important, but Hitler wanted it specifically because it bore the name of his enemy, Joseph Stalin. In August 1942, the German Sixth Army arrived. The Luftwaffe flew 1,600 bombing sorties on a single day. 40,000 civilians died before the ground battle even started. Then the German army moved in, street by street, building by building. The Soviets discovered something crucial. In an urban environment, tanks and artillery become useless. The battle had to be fought with rifles and bayonets in rooms. The Soviets called their tactic hugging the enemy, staying so close to the Germans that Luftwaffe bombers couldn't fire without killing their own men. Every building was a fortress. Every pile of rubble was a sniper position. One factory changed hands 4 times in a single day. German soldiers called it Rattenkrieg, the War of Rats, because they were crawling through ruins and sewers to survive. By November 1942, the Germans controlled 90% of the city. The Soviets held only a thin strip along the Volga riverbank. Soviet supply boats crossed the Volga at night under fire to keep the strip alive. Then, on November 19, 1942, Soviet General Zhukov launched Operation Uranus. 2 massive armies swept around the German flanks, not into the city, but around it. 300,000 German soldiers surrounded. In winter. Cut off from supply. Hitler ordered them to hold and refused all requests to break out. Temperatures dropped to minus 30 degrees. The German army hadn't been issued winter equipment. Field Marshal Paulus begged Hitler for permission to break out. Hitler promoted him instead. On February 2, 1943, the last 91,000 survivors surrendered. Of the 91,000 who surrendered, only about 6,000 ever returned to Germany. The rest died in Soviet prison camps. Total casualties at Stalingrad, approximately 840,000 Axis dead, wounded, or captured. 1.1 million Soviet casualties. Nearly 2 million people. From this moment forward, Germany never again launched a major offensive on the Eastern Front. Stalingrad was the turning point of the entire Second World War, the most brutal urban battle in recorded history. 2 million casualties, an entire German army erased. That's number 1. Here's the final countdown. 5 battles, 2,500 years of warfare. Number 5, Thermopylae. 300 men, 20,000 enemy dead. Prove that geography is the most powerful weapon of all. Number 4, Agincourt. Technology beats numbers. 500 English dead against 10,000 French. Number 3, Cannae. The perfect trap. 70,000 dead in 3 hours. Studied in war colleges to this day. Number 2, the Somme. Industrial slaughter. Over 1.1 million casualties. The day 57,470 men fell before dinner. And number 1, Stalingrad. Nearly 2 million casualties. The battle that broke Nazi Germany. What connects all 5 of these battles is not just the scale of death. It's that each one changed the rules, rewrote the playbook, proved something that military thinkers had to unlearn and relearn for centuries. The question military historians keep asking isn't who won, it's what did it cost, and was it worth it? After Stalingrad, after the Somme, that question has no easy answer. If you want to go deeper on any of these battles, drop it in the comments. We're covering each one individually in future videos. Subscribe so you don't miss them, and we'll see you in the next one.